Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for Marvel Essential The Punisher, Volume 1. Many of you know, I've been going through these Marvel Essential books. They're just black and white, big old books with like 25 to 30 issues of comics in them. I've been on a kick for this, and I bought a lot of them last year. I had some when I was a teenager, and I bought a lot of them last year throughout 2025, as I talked about in my Ghost Rider Volume 1 review, the previous video to this. Now, I've been a fan of Punisher for a long time. I was curious about how the art would hold up in black and white here. Gonna be honest with you, it doesn't hold up that well. For the most of it. Not all of it, but for a big chunk of it. The big reason for that is something that I never knew. Apparently Punisher, from what my surprise is here, apparently Punisher was a villain for Spider-Man when he was first introduced as an assassin hired by the Jackal. I didn't know that. I knew like Wolverine was originally a villain fighting the Hulk, had a little bit of a different mask on his costume and stuff. I knew that before he became an X-Men member. Did not know that about Punisher. And so it kind of surprised me as I cracked open this book, and it took me a while to get through it because the book is kind of a very half and half book. I'd say like the first 50 or 60% of the book, if you're not a big Spider-Man fan. And for me, it kind of hits or misses on whether I'm a Spider-Man fan, depending on what we're talking about. And this is a great example of a book that shows that. A lot of the time, you're dealing with Spider-Man wackiness on top of Punisher being a more serious character before they had time to develop him into a really edgelordy, murder everybody, Garth Ennis type of character that he becomes eventually down the road. The first 14 issues of this book, this technically an omnibus, is Spider-Man stuff. It's everything from Spectacular Spider-Man to just Amazing Spider-Man most of the time. There are 14 issues, and I think one of them is even a giant issue book that's all Spider-Man stuff, with Punisher involved there as a companion, or a threat, a villain. And it's pretty par for the course. It's not as edgelordy as something like Ghost Rider, which I just reviewed before this in a Marvel Essential Volume 1. It's not as dark and grim as that. I think that came before this. I could be wrong. But I thought Ghost Rider was significantly better, especially with the art being in black and white in these volumes, because they don't do color. The Punisher, to me, does not pick up art-wise or really story-wise until, again, about the last 35 or 40% of the book. And Punisher doesn't even get his first number 1 until like the last 100 pages of this book. Because the first real miniseries or ongoing that started off Punisher was called Circle of Blood. I think I've read that one time way back in the day. We're talking like 2017, 2018 when I had my back injury. I may have Circle of Blood on my Kindle. I don't know. But it had been a while since I read it, so I went ahead and read that again. And I think it's the best portion of the entire book. Most of this book, again, 14 issues of Spider-Man, then you have like a Captain America issue, you have like 4 or 5 issues of Daredevil in here that's kind of a lot more quiet and thoughtful than something like the Spider-Man issues that just are all over the place. They have Cloak and Dagger, they have all kinds of wacky adventure stuff, and yeah, the Spider-Man stuff is a little bit out there if you're more of a Punisher person and not a Spider-Man person. I'm a fan of both, I just don't like the mesh we got here. Maybe in the context of what was going on in Spider-Man at the time might make it better. I don't know. But for me, it doesn't work as well. You might as well skip to the end of the book and do the Punisher stuff. But the Captain America issues and the Daredevil issues, they were really solid. I really, really, really enjoyed what I got in most of those. Not completely, but most of them, I think there was something else here collected in here I wanted to talk about too. I'm not seeing it. I think there was a thing called Marvel Preview number 2 that apparently, if I remember correctly, that was like a dedicated Punisher story way before he got his ongoing. I could be wrong about that. But if that's what I think it was, that was cool. I liked that. But the Circle of Blood story, the last 5 issues of this whole book, it was supposed to be a 4-part miniseries, and it became a 5-part, I guess, because they needed to expand it out a little bit, make it breathe. Circle of Blood is basically a prison story. Like, it's Punisher escaping prison with some bad guys. And I love Punisher because he wants to kill bad guys. So him being put in the situation, even in this first volume of Punisher stuff, having to fight potentially good guys like guards and stuff, trying to be in a place where he doesn't kill those guys, but he wants to kill these other people he's working with to escape from jail. It's kind of interesting, you know? I like that. I like how it's executed. I think the writer, whoever it was, did very well on those Punisher 1 through 5 issues for Circle of Blood. But even down to like the Captain America issue in here, or the Daredevil stuff, the Captain America one I really appreciated because years ago, one of my first comics I ever really delved into was an event called Civil War. And there was a lot of lines in there when Punisher shows up, his appreciation for Captain America. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, it's restated in here too. Punisher, for anybody who doesn't know, hates superheroes. He respects the ones who are doing the right thing, but he really doesn't at the same time. He really doesn't want anything to do with any of them at all because he doesn't feel like it's normal, you know, and maybe they have too much power. Maybe there's too much of a chance things can go wrong. And I'm kind of with the Punisher on that, despite loving these other heroes I've read about. But he's got a point. He's got a really good point. And I never realized that Civil War was referencing to something way early on. Like when Punisher was first relatively created in the first couple of years of creation, like the Captain America issue in here, where he basically talks to Cap about how they're both veterans and he respects the hell out of him and would listen to him and blah, blah, blah. I really liked that. There are issues like with Spider-Man where Punisher gets locked up for just being the Punisher and doing his thing and killing bad guys and crime lords and stuff. And they did some interesting stuff in those particular issues of Spider-Man. I think that was the spectacular Spider-Man issues in here. There's like 3 of those collected in this book. But they did well. I thought those were well done, and having Punisher just kind of give himself up and go ahead and just go to jail. The Circle of Blood storyline, I can't remember for sure if it's that or the Daredevil storyline. But in one of those two storylines, I think it's Circle of Blood, there is a child that gets killed by a bad guy, Punisher and Daredevil, I think he was there, are going after, and a kid just straight up gets shot and killed in front of her mom, if I remember correctly. I think it was a little girl. It's been a little bit since I finished this book. I was sick through Christmas, so I haven't had time to go through and just kind of break down what I saw again and talk about it. But a kid gets shot in front of their parent, and in front of the Punisher, too. And he goes crazy after it. He just goes nuts after the dude who shot her, or him, or whatever the gender of the kid was. And I'm telling you, I think Ghost Rider and stuff are way more edgy than Punisher is in this couple of volumes of these Marvel Essentials. But that moment in here, because of how grounded Punisher is as a character, for the most part, aside from the world he lives in and operates in, that moment with a child getting shot and killed in a comic book, which were written for kids, that blew me away. It blew him or her away too, but it hit them first, but it shocked me too reading this, because I don't know how they got away with that. You look at the old controversies that used to happen with Marvel, like when Stan Lee fought against the Comics Code over having representation of drug addiction in stories for kids in these comics. And I don't know how they got away with shooting a kid. I don't know how they did it, but it was cool. Not that it was a good thing, but it was a good story element that I feel like really brought Punisher to life, man. Really just had him operating and turning almost animalistic with how just crazy he went after this. It was great in that regard. But that means that a lot of the book, when it's focusing on Spider-Man stuff, I just didn't like a good chunk of it because it was so out there with the Spider-Man stuff, and having Punisher be too much of a caricature of an anti-hero versus what he becomes when we start finding out more about his backstory with his past and whatnot, his family being killed in front of him. Once we start getting more grounded Punisher stuff, like with sort of the Captain America thing and sort of the Daredevil, and then with Circle of Blood at the end of the book, I feel like it's really good. It just takes a while to get there. You know what I mean? I'm curious what Volume 2 is going to be like once I get into that, because by the end of this book, you have great art. I really love the art for the Punisher ongoing here at the end of the book. I think Volume 2 pretty much looks like that, and Volume 3 and Volume 4, which are also really hard to get your hands on, by the way, for a decent price. Like, they're expensive. Some of those go for like 80 and 90 bucks. A lot of these Marvel Essential books can go for that much, especially some of the later Claremont X-Men stuff in there. You have to just kind of wait it out to get good deals. I'm really excited that I have those other volumes of Punisher. There's only 4 of them, but I'm really excited to get to those. And I think from what I've seen, the art stays pretty consistent through all of them from that point on. But I hope that there's a lot less crossover with other heroes and stuff, because I cannot get in the place where I like the Punisher dealing with other people. It's one thing like with the Daredevil TV show with season 2, they brought him in. That's one thing. But I don't even know how much I like that. You know, I kind of just like Punisher doing his thing. That's why I want to read the Garth Ennis stuff so bad. Because it just seems like it'd be up my alley with the kind of revenge, hunting bad guys type of thing. I think it'd be more up my alley. So anyway, The Punisher Marvel Essential Volume 1. It was cool. It's not excellent. It was fun. It's not excellent. It's got a lot of flaws. And if you're patient with it, I think it'll really surprise you. But again, if you're a big, big fan of Spider-Man, and let's say that you're a bigger fan of Spider-Man than me, and you kind of just like anything, doesn't really have to be super high quality for Spider-Man, I think you'll love this book way more than me. But however, I think when we get to Volume 2 and stuff, I suspect there will be a lot less other hero representation. I think I'm going to love that way more than most people would who are big Spider-Man, Daredevil, Captain America people. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you have to say about the first volume of Marvel Essential Punisher. What did you think about the Circle of Blood storyline? I'd love to hear all that thought too. And all the trial stuff about, Daredevil and with Punisher on the trial. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all those things and him being a villain for Spider-Man at first. Let's discuss those things down below. And also, what do you think about these Marvel Essential books? Do you love them? Do you hate them? I really love them, and I'm glad I bought so many of these last year. I think they are just fucking fantastic, dude. And I wish we had a lot of the same thing for the same kind of price in black and white, or have them in color with cheaper paper like these books are made with, even though the ink kind of rubs off on my fingers on this particular copy. Ghost Rider didn't do that, like I said. I wish we had this kind of alternative now still in print. They haven't made these since like 2013, which makes me sad. But I wish we had more of these. These Marvel Essentials, to me, I like them more than I like Epic Collection, even though I have like one of those now for my birthday. I may make a video at some point comparing these two different groups, like the Marvel Essentials versus the Epic Collections, and maybe even these Premier Classic Collection things Marvel are doing now to compete with DC's compacts. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. We'll see. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.